What's up, Peak City? How we doing? Good, man. Y'all are alive at 11 a.m. You find me a more loud, energetic, rowdy group of people at 11 a.m. on a Sunday morning in Colorado Springs. I defy you. You won't find them. Man, we're so thrilled to have you. If you're brand new with us, welcome to the family. My name's Petey. I'm the lead pastor here. Would love to get to meet you today. If you want to, come find me in the lobby. My wife, Brittany, and I will be right out there. So come say hey. Would love to properly welcome you to the family. If you have a Bible and you want to get there, we are going to be in Matthew 5 today. Matthew 5, if you don't have a Bible, no sweat. We'll have it on the screen for you. But before, as you turn there and kind of before we jump into it, I want to put just a few things on your radar. A few great opportunities for you to take a next step here and get connected. Next Sunday, we start our next round of Culture Class. Culture Class is our 3-week experience that helps you understand what we're all about and what it means to be a part of Peak City. And so it's a great place to get connected. If you've been coming to this church for a long time, but you've never gone through Culture Class, I want to encourage you to go through it this time around. We have it at 9 and 11 a.m., so you can choose one and go to church during the other. We'll take care of your kids the whole time. But it's a great place just to start meeting other people that are starting to call Peak City home. So check out Culture Class. Second, if you've already been through Culture Class, sign up for a group. We've got over 20 new groups launching this week. So if you go to peakcityco.com/groups, there are so many ways to get connected. We've got so many different kinds of groups meeting all over the city at different times, different topics. We got starting point for people that are new to faith. We've got grief share. There's financial peace. There's all kinds of groups that are meeting and talking about the sermon. And so there's just lots of ways to get connected. And I'm telling you, the reason I keep pushing these two things, Culture Class and groups, is that coming out of COVID, this is something that COVID robbed from us, was the ability to have community and meaningful relationships. And so it's really important for us as we begin to rebuild our lives post-COVID, almost post-COVID. It's really important to get community back in your life. We were not created to do this alone, all right? So sign up for Culture Class, sign up for groups. Let's push that. Now, second thing I want to put on your radar, how many of you, by show of hands, have gotten one of our brand new free Build the Future t-shirts? By show of hands, how many of y'all got you a free t-shirt? A lot of you. If you haven't, it's okay. We still got plenty out there. So I'm telling you, go get yourself a free Peak City Church t-shirt. And we're asking everyone just to consider their financial giving here. If you don't give here, take a t-shirt. I don't care. But it's just a way for us to kind of continue the spirit of generosity that's happened around here. So grab yourself a free t-shirt. And if you're all in here, man, pray about giving so that we can continue building the future together. All right? Now, all that intro stuff aside, we are in week 2 of a collection of messages that we're calling Death to Religion. And the reason we're calling it that, it's this sentiment that we're seeing really widespread in our country right now and in our culture. And that is that most people believe, and you may actually believe this today, especially if you're watching with us online, you're just kind of checking things out. Shout out to all you guys. I just met somebody last service that watched online for 2 weeks and just came this past service for the very first time in person, which is awesome. So man, if you're watching online, we can't wait to meet you. But it's this sentiment that many of us have that the world would actually be a better place if it weren't for religion. Right? The religion is actually hurting the world more than it's helping the world. And what's interesting is that when you dig into the life and the teachings of Jesus, and you really read for yourself what he was all about and who he really was, when you see what Jesus was all about, you see that he actually agrees. That Jesus actually wanted nothing to do with religion. Jesus came to bring death to religion. Jesus actually wanted something so much better for us. And today, man, I'm so pumped for this message to bring to you, because we're going to tackle a big question that Jesus answers today. A big question that is really, 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 really important, especially in 21st century America. And here's the question. What are we supposed to do? What should we do when we're offended? Some of you are like, I'm offended by that question. What should we do when we're offended? This is a big question. And it's very relevant to where we are today. Because y'all know this, by nature, we as humans are easily offended, right? It's just hardwired into who we are. We're pretty vengeful people. And it starts early, all right? Like I saw this in my daughter Tatum just a couple weeks ago, all right? My baby girl Tatum, she's 4 years old, about to turn 5. And she's like the light of our lives. Like she's so cute and sweet, and I just love how awesome she is. She's great, but sometimes she evil. And so we're sitting there, this is probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. We're getting ready to do our nightly routine. We're reading the Bible like a good pastor's family does, which only happens like half the time, and the other half, they're flailing and screaming and just, go to bed. We're reading the Bible, and we're about to pray. And sometimes I'll call on my kids to pray. So I said, hey, Tatum, will you pray? Because I want them to get used to praying out loud. I want them to know that's not a weird thing. You can do that. Just talk to God like you would talk to anybody else, right? I said, Tatum, will you pray? She said, sure. And so she starts going through her ritualistic prayers. She prays the same stuff just about every night. She said, dear God, thank you for this day. Thank you for our food. I'm like, girl, it ain't dinner time. You ain't got to think about food all the time, all right? Thank you for this day. Thank you for our food. And God, help us to have good sleep tonight and no bad dreams. And then she snuck in this little prayer. She said, God, I pray that my teacher doesn't find out about what I'm going to do to those 2 boys. And I was like, hold the phone. We got to pause this prayer, girl. You can say anything you want to God, but I'm going to need to know the circumstances here. I said, what's going on? She's like, well, there are 2 boys that threw rocks at me on the playground. And I said, give me their names and their addresses right now. I'll take care of this, girl. No, she said, yeah, there are 2 boys that threw rocks at me on the playground. I said, okay, let me piece together the prayer. So you're praying that your teacher doesn't find out about what you're going to do to these 2 boys. And she goes, yeah, Dad, it's called revenge. And she said it just like that with her hand in the air. I was like, this girl is savage. Revenge, right? Like we by nature are pretty vengeful people. We're pretty easily offended. Now the problem is we're already pretty easily offendable people. Then you throw 2020 and 2021 on top of it. Everybody's offended. Everyone's offended by everything, right? If you're a Republican or a Democrat, I'm offended by that. If you're pro-LGBTQ marriage or anti-LGBTQ marriage, I'm offended by that. If you do or don't believe in Black Lives Matter, the movement or the organization, take your pick. Do or don't. I'm offended by that. If you're pro-choice or pro-life, I'm offended by that. If you're pro-vax or anti-vax, pro-mask or anti-mask, I'm offended by that. If you do or don't believe in welcoming immigrants into our country, I'm offended by that. If you do or don't believe in the legalization of marijuana, even though it doesn't matter in Colorado anymore, I'm still offended by that. If you like Tom Brady, everyone's offended by that. As a Tom Brady fan, I take mad offense to this, all right? People hate greatness. They do. But like, come on, we even get mad about people moving. I've only lived here 2 years. And I know people who live here less than me, and they're offended by people moving to Colorado. It's like you're overcrowding I-25. Ugh. But then if you leave Colorado, if you move away from Colorado, it's like, how dare you? I'm offended by that. This is heaven. It's like everybody's offended by everything, right? I'm offended by that. Now, here's the deal. This series is about how religion makes the world worse, right? And so when you think about how easily offended we are, and then 2020 and 2021 made it worse, you know what makes it way worse? Religion. You want to talk about some offended people, religious people. Because you see, what religion does to easily offendable people already, people that already say, I'm offended by that, you know what religious people start saying? God's offended by that. If you cuss, God's offended by that. If you drink or smoke, God's offended by that. If you listen to bad music, watch bad TV, watch bad movies, God's offended by that. If you have premarital sex, God's offended by that. If you don't go to church, if you don't believe everything the Bible says, God's offended by that. See, religious people get offended for things that aren't even personal to them. It's like they're offended on God's behalf. And so now all of a sudden, religious people are offended by everything. Everyone is wildly offended. And religious people, I'm telling you, what I have seen in about 15 years of ministry is that religion has a way of giving you thin skin and a hard heart. Ooh, it'll give you the thinnest layer of skin you've ever seen. And it'll harden your heart towards people like you've never seen before. First church I ever did ministry in was a podunk church in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky. And I was a youth pastor. I was 21 years old, fresh into it. And I'll never forget what God did in that little old country church. Because, man, yes, there were. So, side note, when I talk about church and religion and all that, I think in every church, there are people that are there who are genuinely following Jesus. And then church also has just a lot of religious people. They just religious. They're not following Jesus, they're just religious. That's part of their habit. They go to church, they're just religious people. Well, in this little tiny podunk church in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky, there was an amazing movement of God happening. There were drug addicts that were coming to Jesus. There were people who were in the worst poverty you could ever imagine in the hills of Kentucky coming to Jesus and finding hope and healing. There were people who were really, really wealthy, influential, powerful people who were saying, I need to lay down my pride, lay down my greed, and I need to serve Jesus. It was amazing what God was doing. In the midst of it, though, there were religious people. I'll never forget the very first sermon I preached there. I'm preaching a sermon about God's grace. I'm talking about how, your past doesn't disqualify your future. I'm trying to preach to everybody in the room that knows, like I know, that most of us have screwed up our lives, and thank God that doesn't disqualify our future, right? And I used an illustration. Honestly, I can't even remember the story. I just remember the phrase. I was talking about how I had to go to the bathroom, and I said I had to pee like a racehorse. We were in Kentucky. It's like thoroughbred country, right? It's apropos. No big deal. After service, this elderly lady in our church named Janet, Brittany, you remember, she grabbed my shoulder. I mean, it was pressure point. I was about to pass out. I'm like, Janet, stop grabbing my shoulder. And she's like, young man, what you said on that stage, you offended God. God is offended by what you said. And honestly, when she said it, I was kind of like, in my head, I didn't know what she was talking about. I was thinking, did I accidentally cuss? It's like a low-key fear of mine. Like, someone's going to say, did I? Sorry. It's like, that'd be bad, first sermon. But I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, when you said pee like a racehorse, that God's offended by that. Never mind the stories of life change. Never mind the stories of drug addicts coming to know Jesus. Never mind the stories of powerful and influential people laying down their influence for Jesus. Never mind all the life change that was happening. God's offended by what you said. If that ain't the definition of a thin-skinned, hard-hearted person, I don't know what is. That's what religion produces. Thin skin, hard heart. But the way of Jesus is so much better. Jesus came along and wanted to bring death to religion by offering us a better way, a better solution for when we are offended. Y'all ready for a better way? Y'all ready for to stop buying into the crap that our world is selling right now and making you offended at every turn? I'm telling you, man, Jesus came. If we would put these words into practice, our world would be a different place today. All right? So let's dig in. Matthew chapter 5. I've had too many energy drinks this morning, but I'm telling you, it ain't the energy drinks that's up in arms about this and hype about this. This is, I truly believe, and this, like what you're about to hear, some of you that aren't familiar with the Bible, you have heard what we're about to talk about. If you've, just living in America, you've heard these words from Jesus that we're about to say. They're probably the most famous words Jesus ever said. And I'm telling you, if our country would put these words, if us as individuals would put these words into practice, our city will be a different place because of it. I got big hopes and big prayers for this one. Matthew chapter 5. Here's how he starts off. It says, you have heard that it was said, eye for eye and tooth for tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. Now pause for a second. What he's talking about there sounds ancient and barbaric, right? It's a system of equal retribution. This is how almost every culture and every civilization in all of history started. A system of law and justice, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. You do something wrong to someone else, and ancient civilizations would say the way you fix that is you inflict the same punishment on the opposite end. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth. This is how we maintain law and order, right? It's a system of equal retribution. Now, in Jesus' day, when he spoke this, the system had already evolved into what we know today, which is more of a financial retribution system, right? When you do something wrong to somebody else, there's going to be legal consequences and there's going to be financial consequences. That's kind of how you get even. So Jesus is saying, you've heard it said, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. What he's saying is you're familiar with how we get even. You're familiar with what we do when someone offends you or you offend someone else. You're familiar with it, all right? Now, what he's going to do next is he's going to list 3 ways that you might get offended, all right? He says this. He says, if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, ... We're going to fill in the ... in a second. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, if anyone forces you to go 1 mile. Now, pause for a second and leave that up for me, Shauna. So, this is, these are all offenses that you and I encounter on a very regular basis. Okay, when Jesus says, if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, he's both talking like, yes, literally, but really more so metaphorically, right? When someone just like insults you, it's just like, man, you just got smacked by somebody. When someone offends you and you're just like, oh, right? How do we normally respond, right? Moms and dads in the room, you know how we normally respond. Because when your kid came home from school and said, so-and-so hit me on the playground, you told them how we normally respond. Right, like all the moms in the house, we're like, so here's what you're going to do. You're going to walk away and just go tell the teacher. And all the dads are like, that's not it. Right? Moms get that like S going. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to tell the teacher. The dads are like, yeah, you can go tell the teacher, but if he bothers you again, you punch little Christopher in the nose and he'll never touch you again. Right? But that's how we normally respond when we're hit with an insult, is you either walk away and abandon the situation, you remove yourself from the relationship, you remove yourself from that potentially happening again, or you strike back, right? This is how we normally respond. If anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, if someone accuses you of something, if someone says, hey, I'm accusing you of doing something, even if they're right, even if you did it, what do we usually do? We defend ourselves. Even if you're actually guilty, you're going to come up with an alibi. You're going to defend yourself and you're going to defend your stuff. Ain't nobody going to come at you like that. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile. Now this one needs a little bit of context. In Jesus' day, this is a very first century deal. The Roman Empire ruled the known world, and Roman soldiers could ask anyone at any time to pick up their stuff and carry it for them for a mile, helping them travel. Right? So it was unfair, it was unjust, and they would have to do it, right? The equivalent for us today is like if your boss asked you to work a Saturday, right? And he didn't ask anybody else to work a Saturday, but you got to work a Saturday. How do we normally respond in that situation when someone unfairly requires you to do something, right? We do the bare minimum. Come on, we know this. You clock in 10 minutes late, take a 30-minute longer lunch. All the work you did throughout the day is pretty bad quality. You scrolled Instagram most of the time. And then you clock out 10 minutes early and you're done. You do the bare minimum and you do it begrudgingly. Right? This is just how we respond. This is normal response to offense. Now, before we talk about how Jesus said to respond, we got to ask ourselves, forget your religious affiliation, forget your faith background for a second. All of us, religious and irreligious together, is the way that we usually respond to being offended, is it helping the world or is it hurting the world? Is the way you respond to being offended, is it helping anyone or anything, or is it just perpetuating the cycle of hatred in our world? Is it just perpetuating the cycle of vengeance? Is it just perpetuating the hatred and the violence and the evil that we see spread throughout our world? See, Jesus says, instead of doing what you normally do, here's what I want you to do. And I'm telling you, it's so hard, it's so out there, it's so weird, but I'm telling you, it would change the world. He says this, if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, here's what I want you to do. These are the words you've probably heard. These are the most famous phrase Jesus ever spoke. Turn to them the other cheek also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. See, Jesus teaches this revolutionary, jaw-dropping response of love. Jesus says when you get smacked, when you get slapped, when you get insulted, here's what I want you to do. I don't want you to walk away and abandon the relationship. I don't want you to walk away from the chance it's going to happen again. And I certainly don't want you to strike back. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to just stay put. Turn the other cheek. I want you to remain vulnerable. I want you to remain in a place where the relationship is intact and you show the other person the kind of love and belief that they are actually better than what they've shown you so far and that you're going to give them another chance, right? I'm going to stay put. I'm going to turn the other cheek and I'm going to drop their jaw to the floor with the kind of love in the face of evil. He says if someone sues you, accuses you of something, don't defend yourself. Don't get your alibi ready. Don't even worry about it. If they ask for your shirt, drop their jaw to the floor with your generosity. Give them what they wanted and even more. Love them like it don't even make sense, that kind of love. If someone unfairly asks you to do something, if someone asks you to go 1 mile, if someone asks you to work a Saturday, here's what I want you to work 2 Saturdays. I want you to offer up even more of your time. I want you to serve so selflessly, so joyfully, not begrudgingly. I want you to do the exact opposite of what they think you're going to do. And in doing so, you are going to end the cycle. Right, that's what Jesus is trying to do. He's trying to get us to end the cycle of hatred, end the cycle of evil, end the cycle, to stop it. See, Jesus says, when you get offended, don't get defensive. Not if you get offended, but when you get offended. Resist the urge. Don't get defensive. Don't fight back. Don't walk away. Don't accuse them of stuff. When you get offended, the number one thing you have to do is you have to resist the urge. You have to make sure that you don't get defensive. Because if you can do that, if you can properly resist the urge to get defensive, you now open yourself up to love them like they've never been loved before. People in our world are expecting us to be offended. When you say, no, I'm offended in my heart, I'm offended in my soul, but I'm going to refuse to act on that, I will resist the urge. When I get offended, I will not get defensive. Instead, I'm going to serve, I'm going to love, I'm going to give, I'm going to meet hatred with love. I mean, come on, you know MLK had to be thinking about this when he said that darkness can't drive out darkness, only light can do that, right? Hate cannot drive out hatred, only love can do that. Someone in our world has to decide to stop the cycle. Someone has to end the cycle. And I'm telling you, the rest of the world's not going to do it. But if we will love people like this, see, this is how the movement of Jesus spread and became the most powerful spiritual movements in all of human history. You want to talk about a pandemic? You want to talk about contagious? That kind of love, that kind of selflessness, oh my gosh, it'll change a whole world. It spread throughout the entire world and infected everybody. It was love that didn't even make sense. And if we could respond like that, I mean, just think about your marriage for a moment. You're like, I don't want to think about my marriage right now because I'm offended. Think about how different your marriage would be if when you were offended, if you were not treated with complete selflessness, maybe your spouse met you with some selfishness. Think about how different your marriage would be if you didn't keep a score and didn't try to get even. But instead, you said, hey, when they hit me with that, I'm going to turn right back around. I'm going to love them like they've never been loved. I'm going to serve them like they've never been served. I'm going to go above and beyond to make them know and feel the love. Think about how different your marriage would be. Think about how different your work environment would be if all of your employees started living this out. If when there was an offense, everyone was like, oh, we don't match evil for evil. We actually respond in the opposite way. We actually love and serve and give. I'm telling you, this small teaching right here, if our country, if our culture, if our churches, oh my gosh, I swear, if our churches would practice this, of saying, when we get offended, we're just going to sit down with each other. We're going to talk it out. We're not going to leave. We're not going to bail and go to another church where nobody knows about my issues. We're going to sit down and we're just going to talk it out and we're going to love each other. It would change the world if we put this into practice. When you get offended, don't get defensive. Now, We are at the place now just like we were last week. All right, if you were here last week, you know what happened last week. It's the same thing that's going to happen this week. We're at the same place. This is where religion always takes us. See, religion tells you what you should do and gives you no clue how to get there. Religion tells you what you should do and says, all right, go have fun, figure it out. It's like how y'all did with me when I first got here and y'all said, you should go camping. It's beautiful. And me as a non-outdoors anything was like, great, I'll go camping, sure. How do you go camping? I don't know. I had to figure it out on my own because you animals didn't help me at all. As evidenced by the fact that the first time I went camping, I took my kids with me, and one of my kids, not gonna name him, one of my kids, in the first 10 minutes, had an accident. What did I have on me? No wipes, no toilet paper, no change of underwear. So there I am, thank God there was a creek near our campsite, with my kid butt naked, washing his butt off in the creek like a caveman. Go camping, they said. It'll be fun, they said. You should go camp. Get out here. I'm learning my way, fumbling my way through it. That's what religion does. Right? Religion says, you should go do this. And then just go fumble your way through it. Get halfway through it and then figure out you're not good at this and then give up. But that's why I tell you that Jesus did not come to start another religion. Jesus came to start something way, way, way better. See, because Jesus is a leader. And leaders always go first. Jesus said, I want you to come. I want you to love people like they've never been loved before. I want you to not get defensive when you get offended. I want you to instead turn the other cheek. Jesus came and said, okay, I told you what you should do. Now I want you to see how it's done. I'm going to go first. I mean, after all, it was Jesus who was arrested and beaten within an inch of his life, though he did nothing wrong. It was Jesus that was flogged, beaten, bloodied, cussed at, insulted, dressed up in pretend clothes to look like a king because people worshiped him as a king, though he did nothing wrong. It's Jesus on the cross. I wish I could take you there. I wish we could somehow all go there, time travel back and get there. But I want to try to take you there. And instead of traveling, the best you're going to get is a pixely Google image of what it could have looked like. All right, but go ahead and put that up for us, Shauna. It's Jesus hanging on a cross in between two criminals who were guilty as charged. Jesus, though he did nothing wrong, was suffering a criminal's death. People below him, if you could see the picture below, people were still spitting at him, still cussing at him, gambling for his clothes underneath, treating him just like a fool. It's Jesus. Did nothing wrong. And notice in this picture, and if you've read the story leading up to this, did he ever fight back? Nope. Did he ever try to defend himself? Scripture says that he was like a sheep being led to the slaughter. He just took it. Never pushed back, never got defensive, never defended himself. He put what we're talking about into practice. You won't find a more physically offended person in all of history than Jesus. But it's not just the physical violence he endured unfairly. Scripture also tells us that he was not just physically offended, that he was spiritually offended. That in this moment, what we're observing right now, Jesus had on his shoulders the sins of all humanity. Every wrong thing that's ever been done by anyone in history is spiritually placed on his shoulders right now. You won't find a more physically offended and spiritually offended man than Jesus. And yet his response is love. His response is not defensiveness, not pushing back. His response is love. And where you are right now, like where your mind is right now, is exactly where God wants you to be. Because if you're thinking through this, which I hope you are, I hope you're not just letting it go in one ear and not the other. If you're thinking about this right now, you understand that when I say it's the sins of all humanity that was placed on his shoulders, that's not some abstract idea. That's a personal thing. Like, you need to come to the realization, I'm praying that God through his Spirit does this in your heart and in your mind right now, that it wasn't someone else's sin that put Jesus on the cross, it was yours. It was mine. It was our sin that put him there. It's no longer, I'm offended by that. Now we sit here, I'm offended by me. I can't believe I did that. I can't believe we did that. And see, God wants you in this moment to feel that heaviness, that weight. I love it. It's like a pin drop in here right now. But God wants you to feel that. Because it's in that moment when you understand that Jesus did this because he loves you. He didn't do it begrudgingly. He didn't show up late. He didn't do it defensively. He did it for joy. He did it because he loves you. He loves you so much. He knows everything you've ever done, and he still loves you enough to die for you. See, it's in this moment, this is how God has always created this to work. This is how God softens the human heart. This is how God takes us and goes us from thin skin, hard hearts, to thick skin and soft hearts. Is when you understand that it was your sin that put Jesus here, and he did it for love. Oh my gosh, how in the world could you ever be offended by anything again? You did this, I did this. So if someone else offends me, no big deal, man. God's forgiven me of way, 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 way worse. Thick skin, bulletproof. You can't get through to me. You can try to offend me. You can try to step on my toes, but you don't understand. Now that I started following Jesus, I ain't got no toes anymore. You can't step on my toes because they don't exist. Thick skin and a soft heart, because you start to understand every person that offended you, every person that's ever done anything wrong to you is someone that Jesus did this for. Oh, how could you not love him if Jesus did that for him? See, in that moment, when you understand it was your sin and my sin that put Jesus on the cross, that's what melts the heart of stone. It's worked that way for thousands of years. Look at Colossians chapter 3. Paul says it like this. He says, therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion. Here it is. Compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Man, come on. Imagine our world operating like that. Imagine how much better our world would be if we all clothed ourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Then he says, bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. If you're offended, forgive them. And now here's the money verse. This is how it's worked since the start of the movement of Jesus. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. You cannot forgive fully and properly until you realize that you have been forgiven. See, this actually helped me make sense of faith early on. I didn't grow up going to church. And when I first started coming to faith, I had a lot of just like intellectual obstacles and issues to work through. And one of them was not about God, it was about people. Or like I couldn't understand how people could be so mean, so evil, so full of hate. I couldn't understand how I could be so mean and so evil and so full of hate. But then as I fixed my eyes on Jesus, as I started thinking about that more and I started focusing on that more, it started to click for me. See, there's a reason that Jesus hung on the cross and he looked down at the people who murdered him. And in that moment, he says, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. It's like he's recognizing that moment. Oh, these people are so full of hatred. They're so full of bitterness. They're so full of evil. And no wonder. Because they've not yet received my love. They don't know what they're doing. See, because until the love that you've received is greater than the hate you've experienced, you will continue to live in offense. Until the love you have received is greater than the hate you've experienced, you will continue to be offended. You will continue to live in offense. And I think that's actually why we see so much of this retribution and so much of this, turn the other cheek. No, I'm going to strike back. It's because people have not received the love of God yet. And that's why we see it in churches. Because, man, some churches are filled with people who've been in church all their lives, but they've never truly received the love of God. Or sometimes it's filled with people who maybe received God's love a long time ago, but it's been a long time. And they stopped receiving it on a daily basis. I mean, this is not just a one-time you receive God's love and you're good, you can forgive. You got to keep receiving. You can't give what you haven't received. And I believe that's maybe what God wants to do with this day and this teaching more than anything, is get our church and get all of us individually back in a place of just receiving God's love. Whatever burden you're carrying around right now, God knows about it and He loves you. However you screwed up last week, whatever you did last night, God knows and He loves you. He died for you. There's nothing you could ever do to make Him stop loving you, nothing you could ever do to make Him love you any less. And I just think He wants you to be back in a position of childlike faith, just receiving love from Him. And I want to give us a chance to do that as a church today, just in a time of response. So would you stand with me to your feet? We do response every single week. And I want you to understand that the questions I'm going to ask you are not just for first-timers. They are for the entire church. We should respond to God every chance we get. But I want you to have that chance to have a private moment with God. So would you bow your heads, close your eyes. If you're here and you would not call yourself a follower of Jesus just yet, but you want to change that today. You know that Jesus is the way, He's the truth, He's the life. You know that you want to start following Him, but you don't know what it looks like just yet. That's okay. You don't have to have the Bible memorized. You don't have to have your life fully cleaned up. You just have to be ready to say yes to receiving God's love and following Jesus. If that's you and you want to make a first-time decision to start following Jesus, I want you to raise your hand as a private commitment between you and God on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. You can put your hands down. If you're here and you know that maybe you've been following Jesus for a while, but you just know that you've not put your heart back in a place where you're receiving His love, and you're ready to get back there. You're ready to just turn your life back to God, to recommit your life to Him, to recommit your heart to receiving His love, to putting your place back in a spot where you're open to receiving His great love for you. If that's you and you want to recommit your life to Jesus, I want you to raise your hand on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Awesome. You can put your hands down. Let's pray, and we're going to ask God to do something special in our church through this. Jesus, we open up our hands to you right now. If you're comfortable doing that and you want to receive God's love right now just as a symbol to Him, if you want to open your hands right now and just receive that from Him. Jesus, we open our hands to you right now, and we ask you to fill us with your love. God, fill us with the kind of love that can meet hatred and meet evil face to face and not perpetuate the cycle, but give us the kind of love that can just drop jaws to the floor. We can't do that without you. God, I'm praying for students in the room who are thinking about all the hatred that's happening in their schools right now. I pray you give them love. Just fill them up with love from you that they can unleash on their school this week. God, I'm praying for marriages right now, for parents right now who are just filled with this keeping score. They're filled with frustration and tempers. God, I pray that you would just melt our hearts with your love. Help us to respond to each other with patience and compassion and kindness and humility. God, I pray for business leaders in the room right now, co-workers, teammates who are struggling to figure out how to love one another. God, fill us up with love that just doesn't make sense, that the only explanation is that it could come from you. God, I pray for people that are watching online right now, that on the other side of that screen, the other side of that keyboard right now, that you would fill them with your love, that they're able to walk away from this with a changed heart. God, we all got some sort of hardness of heart. We need you to melt it right now. Jesus, we trust you. We're not enough, Jesus. We need you. We need you, Jesus. Meet us here, Jesus. Minister to our hearts right now, Jesus. Show us your love right now, Jesus. We fix our eyes on you, Jesus, on the cross. We fix our eyes there. Change us, Jesus. Whatever you're thinking in your heart right now, whatever you've got in your heart, surrender it to him right now. However you've been wronged, Jesus knows about it, and he wants to meet you there. He wants to give you the love that you can't muster up on your own right now. Jesus, we give you everything. Jesus, fill our church with your love like never before. We can't do it without you.
I'm not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again?
Pour out your love on us, Jesus. We love you.
'Cause all I